A 67-year-old man came to me last year. No smoking, no family history of heart disease. He ate what he thought was healthy food every single day, but his arteries looked like those of a man 20 years older. Inflamed, stiff, worn down than a way I usually see in people who spent decades making very different choices. We talked for a long time, and the pattern we found wasn't in his genes. It wasn't his stress levels. It wasn't his weight. It was in how he reheated his dinner. Every single night. I'm Dr. Kevin Adewale. I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon and I've spent over 30 years operating on hearts. What I'm about to share, most doctors won't bring it up at your annual checkup. But after 60, it matters more than you think. There are 5 common foods that become genuinely dangerous when reheated. Not just hard on digestion, dangerous. They trigger a chain reaction inside your body that quietly damages your arteries and raises your risk of serious illness at the same time. Stay with me because by the end of this, you'll never look at your leftovers the same way again. Your body after 60 is playing a different game. Here's what I want you to understand before we get into the 5 foods. When you were in your 30s or 40s, your body had a remarkable ability to neutralize damage. Free radicals, low-grade toxins, minor inflammation. Your cells handled it quietly and efficiently. You didn't feel it. You didn't need to think about it. After 60, that system slows down. Your liver processes toxins more slowly. Your immune response becomes less precise. Your arterial walls get thinner and less elastic. And your DNA repair mechanisms become less reliable. Does that mean you're fragile? Absolutely not. But the margin for error gets smaller. Things harmless at 40 are not harmless at 65. This is where inflammation comes in. Inflammation is not your enemy. In the short term, it's how your body heals. You cut your finger, inflammation cleans the wound. You catch a virus, inflammation fights it. You'll minutes after heating. Significantly safer. Potatoes might be the most misunderstood food on this list because the danger isn't just in reheating them. It's in what reheating does to 2 completely separate processes happening inside that potato at the same time. Let's start with acrylamide. When starchy foods are cooked at high temperatures, a chemical reaction occurs between sugars and an amino acid. The result is acrylamide. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies it as a probable human carcinogen linked to kidney and other cancers. Here's the critical part. First time you cook a potato, acrylamide forms. When you reheat it, more forms on top of what's already there. You're compounding exposure with every reheating cycle. After 60, your body detoxifies acrylamide less efficiently. The same amount does more damage. That's the cancer side. Now, let's talk about the heart side. Fresh cooked potatoes that have been cooled contain something called resistant starch. Resistant starch acts like dietary fiber, feeding healthy gut bacteria and slowing the release of glucose into your bloodstream. Blood sugar rises gradually. When you reheat that potato, the resistant starch converts back into regular starch. Regular starch digests rapidly. Your blood sugar spikes. Your pancreas has to produce a surge of insulin to compensate. For someone over 60 with any insulin resistance, this is genuinely damaging. Sharp repeated blood sugar fluctuations cause oxidative stress in your vessel walls. They accelerate arterial stiffening, contribute directly to cardiovascular disease. One reheated potato, triggering both a carcinogen exposure and a cardiovascular stress response at the same time. That's the silent double threat. The practical solution: eat potatoes cold when possible. Cold potato salad with olive oil and herbs. Resistant starch stays intact. Blood sugar stays stable. If you need them warm, cook fresh ones. Low heat, short time, no added oil. Simple, effect. Feel. Better energy, more stable blood pressure, improved digestion. Your kitchen habits after 60 are one of the most powerful tools you have for protecting your heart. That's what the evidence shows. I want to tell you something I don't say lightly. I've stood at an operating table with a person's chest open in front of me more times than I can count. And in those moments when you're looking directly at someone's heart, working to repair damage that took decades to accumulate, you develop a very specific perspective on what matters. You stop being abstract about health. You stop talking about risk percentages because you're not looking at a statistic. You're looking at a 68-year-old grandfather whose arteries are so inflamed, barely functional, rigid, calcified, like garden holes left in the sun for 20 years. And the question that never leaves you, how much of this was preventable? The honest answer, based on everything I've seen and everything the research tells us, a significant portion of it. Not all of it. Genetics matter. Age matters. There are factors outside anyone's control. I'm not here to assign blame, but chronic inflammation is largely preventable. And chronic inflammation is at the root of a staggering proportion of the cardiovascular disease and cellular illness I've seen. What shocks me most? Not the obvious cases. It's the patients who did almost everything right. Exercised, watched their weight, cooked at home, and still their arteries show signs of chronic inflammatory damage. Same patterns every time when we dug into their daily habits. Reheated oils twice a day. Spinach microwaved every morning, rice on the counter overnight, chicken in the microwave 3 times a week without a second thought. None of these things feel dangerous. That's the entire problem. They feel like normal, sensible, even responsible behavior. But inside the body, after 60, these repeated chemical insults accumulate. The inflammation never fully resolves. The DNA repair sigh.